Hello students, Namaste. Welcome to the quick revision sessions on biology for NEET examination, and you're watching Biology TV. Let's begin with our new chapter, that is biodiversity and its conservation. So first we shall go with what biodiversity is. Okay, biodiversity can be defined as variety of all forms of life. Variety of all forms of life present on earth is called as biodiversity. So consider this as earth. We have got different species living within this earth. We have got plants, we have got animals, we have got microorganisms, we have got macroorganisms. So we have got different, within plants we have got different species of plant, within animals we have got different species of animals, within microorganisms we have got different species of bacteria, different species of fungi, different species of viruses. So all this together, all variety of lives, variety of all forms of life is called as biodiversity. So it is the variety of all forms of life present on earth is called as biodiversity. It was coined by Walter and Rosen in the year 1985. So there are three levels of biodiversity. We can see diversity at three levels. The first one is genetic diversity, then next one is species diversity, and next one is ecosystem diversity or ecological diversity. Diversity at the level of genes is called as genetic diversity. Diversity at the level of species is called as species diversity. Diversity at the ecological level or an habitat level is called as ecological diversity. So genetic diversity. First is variation at the level of genes. Variation at the level of genes is called as genetic diversity, or variation within the population of single species. Variation within the population of single species is called as genetic diversity. Say I have considered this habitat. Say the habitat name as A. There are around 100 dogs. So if this 100 dogs are there, all 100 dogs are not similar. They are different. Their color is different. Their height is different. Their size is different. They have got different varieties. Why they have got different varieties? Because they have got different genes within them. So these genes make up different physical structure. So no doubt they all the 100 are dogs, but all 100 dogs are not similar. One dog is very height, one dog is very small, one dog size is very small, one dog's size is very big, one is very thin, one is very large. So all are dogs, but physically they are not similar. They are different. This variation is called as genetic diversity. Variation at the level of genes. So for long hairs, one genes will be there. For short hairs, one gene will be there. For thin body, one genes will be there. For thick body, one gene will be there. So there is, when certain type of gene is expressed, that character can be seen. So this is known as genetic diversity. Variation at the level of genes or variation within the population of single species is called as genetic diversity. So how this variation is there? This variation is formed due to sexual reproduction. During sexual reproduction, what happens? Male and female gametes come together. How this male and female gametes are produced? They undergo meiotic division. They undergo converted into diploid to haploid condition. When two haploid conditions, male is haploid, female is haploid, they combine together, they form a new zygote, which is very much having more variety. Their genetic diversity is more. So variation at the level of genes or variety within the population of single species is known as what? Genetic diversity. So for example, E. coli, it is a small bacteria, but it is having 4,500 genes within that body. Drosophila, it is having 13,000 genes. So Drosophila, it consists of only 4 chromosomes, but it is having 13,000 genes. Rice, that is Oryza sativa, which we eat, it has 35,000 to 45,000 genes present within that rice plant. So now you can think what genetic diversity is. There, the structure is very small. E. coli structure is very small. It is a very microscopic bacteria, but still it is having 4,500 genes. This is what genetic diversity is. If the genetic diversity is more, then the species richness will be more. If an organism having more number of genes, means there will be having different types of organisms within the same species. Next one is species diversity. Variation at the level of species is called as species diversity, or variety of different species in a given area is called as species diversity. See here, I have taken the example of area A and area B. Area A is having 1 rat, 3 dog, 10 house flies, and 8 sparrows. So how many species are there within this habitat A? There are only 4 species are there. Then come to the area B. Here we have rat, dog, housefly, deer, eagle, pigeon, sparrow. How many are there? 6 are there. Here is 4, here is 6. So which area is having more species? So the area 6 is having more species. So this is what the species diversity is. Variety of different species within the given area. Different species. How many different species are there here? It is 6. How many different species are there here? It is 4. So this is what species diversity is. Variety of different species in a given area is called as species diversity. And the next one is ecological diversity or ecosystem diversity. It is nothing but variation at the level of habitats or biomes. It is called as ecosystem biodiversity or ecological diversity. So if we consider India, all throughout the India, we don't have same environmental conditions. In some area, there is rainforest. In some area, there is deciduous forest. In some area, there is desert. In some area, mangroves. Within India, I'm not talking about the whole world. Within India, we have got different environmental or habitats, different habitats. This is what ecological diversity is. Variation at the level of habitat or biomes is called as ecological diversity. Next is magnitude of diversity. So magnitude means in number, how many species are there within the earth and with whole within the world and within India. So how many species are there on earth? Answer is not clear. Why? Because it is very difficult to find out or even to estimate how many organisms are there, because our system is very much, our earth is very vast. So we can identify and classify the number of plants and number of animals. But if we take a small area and within the soil many microorganisms are present. If you take a small spoonful of soil, if you take a small spoonful full of soil, we'll get nearly 100 different species of microorganisms. So it is bit complicated to study or to estimate the total number of species. We cannot tell only this number of species is present on this earth. We can just estimate and all becomes just a guess. We cannot get a definite answer, but still it has estimated that nearly 3 million to 100 million species are there. Okay. But a scientific study has been conducted by Robert May. He tells that 7 million species are there. About 7 million species are estimated, out of which 1.3 million species have been described and named, have been identified, classified, and they have been named. Out of 7 million, only 1.3 million. Okay, then out of this 7 million species, 70% are animals. So, out of 70% of animals, 70% is insects. Okay, 70% is insects. Means if you go into the forest and if you keep studying, if you see 10 animals, out of which 7 will be insects. So insect population is more, and also fungal population is also more. So how many species are, this is about the overall species diversity in world. How many species are there in India? India occupies around 2.4% of the world's land. So India occupies only 2.4% of the world's land, but it has 8.1 percentage of species diversity. So species share, India's species share is 8.1%. So though our area is less, but the contribution of species diversity is more. That is why India is one among the 12 mega biodiversity countries in the world. There are around 12 mega biodiversity countries and India is one among them. Why? Mainly because we have different species and within our India. It is estimated that 45,000 species of plants are present within India and 76,000 of species of animals are present within India. Out of 45,000 species of plants, 15,000 flowering plants are there. That is almost 6% of the total plant species. 6% of the total plant species of the world is present within India. This is why our India is very diverse. So it is one among the 12 biodiversity countries in the world. And next one is patterns of biodiversity. How an organism is distributed within the habitat. How an organisms or species have been distributed within the earth, that is known as patterns of biodiversity. So as we move from equator to the polar, the species diversity keeps on decreases. The number of species in equator is more. Number of species within the poles or within the poles is less. Why this variation? Why this variation is mainly because of two main reasons that can be studied under two headings: latitudinal gradient and species area relationship. So what does the latitudinal gradient tells? It tells why species diversity is rich in equator region. Why species diversity is rich in equator region. So this is the equator, this is the temperate, tropical, this is temperate, and this one is polar. So what happens is, according to this latitudinal gradient, in the prehistoric time, in the prehistoric time, its earth has originated nearly 4.2 billion years ago. So during those days, this temperate region, blue color which I'm marking is temperate region, this blue color which I'm marking is polar region. These two regions have undergone frequent glaciation and drastic climatic changes. Frequent glaciation means more number of volcanic eruptions. Earthquakes have taken place more evenly or more frequently within this area when compared to the tropical region. This is why the species have distributed more within this habitat or more within this area when compared to the tropical and temperate and polar regions. Okay, during the prehistoric time, this region has undergone frequent glaciation and drastic climatic changes, and the temperature fluctuation in the temperature was more. So organisms have shifted, the species have shifted from above to the most convenient habitat. Here the environmental conditions were most stable. There were no fluctuations, there were no volcanic eruptions, there were no earthquakes. So what happened? All the species have distributed within this habitat or within this area. Hence we can find very rich species, very rich number of species in tropical area. This is one reason. And the second reason is sunlight. This tropical region gets more number of sunlight, or almost an adequate amount of sunlight when compared to temperature and polar regions. This is why the species richness is more in tropical region. This is why the species richness is more in tropical region. See here, the amount of sunlight falling on the region when compared to all the three regions, the tropical region is getting more even or adequate amount of sunlight when compared to other two regions. Hence, the species have distributed more in near the equator than in near the poles. This is about latitudinal gradient. And next one is species area relationship. This theory was proposed by the German naturalist Alexander van Humboldt while exploring the southern American jungles. While exploring South American jungles, he came across a theory known as species area relationship, and he was a German naturalist by name Alexander van Humboldt. He says that according to his observation, species richness increases with increasing the explored area, but up to the certain limit. So, if we go into a habitat and if start to explore how many species are there, the number of species start to increase as the area increases. As the area increases, the number of species increases, but up to the certain level. But after reaching that point, the species richness decreases, the species diversity decreases. That is what Alexander van Humboldt has given, that is named as species area relationship. Species richness increases with increase in the explored area, but up to the certain limit. Hence, when it is plotted on the graph, we get an rectangular hyperbola. So, when we point there, when we join an asymptotes of their ends, we get a rectangle. Hence it forms an rectangular hyperbola. In a logistic, when we apply a log, we get a straight line. So it is having log s is equal to log c plus z log a, where s is species richness, a is area, slope of the line is z, and y is y-intercept. So this is about the species area relationship. See here, as the area increases, number of species increase, but up to the certain point. After this, what happens? The number of species keeps on decreases. So number of species keeps on decreases. At any area you may take, any big area you may take, the species richness increases up to the certain limit, but after that it start to decrease. When this plotted on a graph, we get a rectangular hyperbola, and when we apply a log, we get a straight line, and that one is called as log s is equal to log c plus z log a. Okay, here a small observation I will give, which is very simple for which becomes simple for understanding. Suppose if you enter a habitat, if you enter a forest, in the entrance of the forest, number of species will be more. As we enter still inside, if you stay in the exact center of the forest, there the species richness is more. Almost all the many number of species are present at the center. As you move away from the center, then again the species richness decreases. Why? Because here most favorable environmental conditions are there. So here there is very rich species diversity. As you come near to the exit of the forest, the number of species decreases. This is what the species area relationship is. Okay, then next one is importance of species diversity. Why a species diversity? Why an area or habitat should have more number of species? What happens to the habitat if the habitat is having more number of species? If an area is having more number of species, then it increases the stability of the habitat. If an area is having more number of species, there is high production within the habitat. If an habitat there is more number of species, then such habitat is having healthy functioning of ecosystem. That type of habitat performs very healthily. All its functions will be of very healthy conditions. So we can see there are three main importance of species biodiversity. If the species diversity is rich, it helps in increased stability, high productivity, high healthy functioning of ecosystem. Let's go with the first one, that is increased stability. How an habitat is said to be more stable? How an habitat is said to be more stable? That is by, if an habitat is said to be more stable only when there is no variation in the productivity year by year. There is no variation in the productivity year by year. Means, suppose if you take a habitat, we have already studied what productivity is. It is the total amount of energy present within the each trophic level. It is called as productivity. So there are two types of productivity: primary productivity and secondary productivity. Primary productivity, it is among the producers level. Secondary productivity, it is among the consumers level. Producers, primary productivity is of two types: gross primary, net primary productivity. This we all have studied. So if you take a habitat, in the say around the first year, it has given around 100 kgs of, not 100 kgs, 100 kilocalories of energy in the first year. And in the second year, it should give around 102 or 98. There should not be much fluctuation in the number of productivity year by year. There should be almost constant or almost equal amount of productivity year by year. Then such type of habitat is said to be more stable. First one is no variation in the productivity year by year. Resistance to disturbances caused naturally and also by humans. Sudden rain takes place. If a heavy rain happens, the habitat should not undergo destruction. Sudden wind, heavy wind blows, the habitat should not undergo destruction. If an earthquake takes place, in a very lighter conditions, in very light magnitudes, if the earthquake takes place, then there should not be very much disturbance. The habitat should recover all that very speedily. If an habitat is recovering all these disturbances or disturbance caused by man, that is by spraying any type of chemicals or by cutting down the plants or trees, that habitat should recover that all the lost things very fastly. Then the habitat is said to be highly stable. The first one is variation in the, there should not be variation in the productivity year by year. Resistance to the disturbances caused by natural disturbances or man-made, and the resistance to invasion by alien species. Alien species are the species which have originated from elsewhere and occupy this habitat, and they start to destruct this habitat. Such type of species are called as alien species. Best example I can give is the Congress plant. This Congress plant, the scientific name is Parthenium. So it is a weed. Once you might have all seen that Congress plant or Parthenium, which grows wildly within any habitat. So if you see, if once this Parthenium start to grow, it never allows other plant species to grow. It occupies all the area. It grows very luxuriantly. It will not allow other organism to grow. Such type of species, such type of plants are called as alien species. So an organism or a plant which is growing within this habitat, a very important plant, I am not talking about the weeds, a very useful plant which is growing within this habitat, it should not allow other alien species, it should not allow this alien species, or we should not allow this Parthenium to come and grow within this habitat. It should show some resistance. If this habitat is showing resistance, then it is more stable. So first one is increased stability. How an habitat is said to be more stable? There should be no variation in the productivity year by year. Resistance to the man-made and natural disturbances. Resistance to invasion by alien species. And next one is higher productivity. If an area is having more number of species, then the productivity will be more number of species. Say for example, this habitat is having say around 100 producers, 100 different species of producers, so their productivity is more. So when the productivity is more, net primary productivity will be more. If productivity is less, obviously the net primary productivity will be less. So if the productivity of the habitat should be more, means the producers should be more. When the producers are more, their productivity will be more. When they have got more productivity, the net productivity will be more, so that the next organism gets more amount of energy. So from here the next organisms will get. So in our, so if an area is having more number of species, then it is said to be, then the productivity is said to be very high. Next one is healthy functioning of ecosystem. If an habitat is having more number of species, then it performs all its function very efficiently. So here, to explain the healthy functioning of ecosystem, Paul Ehrlich gave an hypothesis known as Rivet-Popper hypothesis. Rivet-Popper hypothesis. So here rivets are the screws or bolts which are fitted in the construction, which are used in the construction of plane. So he considered each bolt to individual species of habitat. If we remove one rivet or one bolt from an aeroplane, nothing will happen. If you start to remove all the rivets, then this aeroplane cannot fly. It will destruct, it will fall down. In the same way, each and every species is important. So all species combine together to form one big habitat. So their all functioning will be very healthy or very efficient. So this is why the species diversity should be there. If the species diversity is more, it helps in increased stability. How we will tell that it is more stable? No variation in productivity year by year, resistance to disturbances caused naturally and man-made, and resistance to invasion by alien species, higher productivity, healthy functioning of ecosystem. This is what importance of species diversity is. So let's continue in the remaining things in my next presentation. So if you like the video, please like, share and subscribe. And for notes and other study materials, please log on to my Telegram channel, and the link to my Telegram channel is given in a description. Thank you.